Greetings, everybody. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you. This is Dr. Jason Johnson for Dr. Jason Johnson's YouTube. I hadn't planned on doing this today, but I have a lot to say. If this is your first time, welcome. Please like, subscribe, and share on your Instagram, your YouTube, everything else like that. For those of you who know, for those of you who don't know, we should start for the first minute. I say what my 3 things are for the day, and then you see the rest of the full video. You have to go to my YouTube channel, Dr. Jason Johnson. Please like, subscribe. Everything's been going great. Yeah, so 3 things for today, which are kind of interesting, although the first thing is going to be pretty long. You see it in the thumbnail. We got to talk about Texas, but I don't really want to talk about Texas. I don't really want to talk about the Democrats who are fleeing from Texas. I want you to understand what's actually at stake and why this is really the end game, and it really starts with Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. Then number 2, we're going to talk a little bit about Sydney Sweeney and MAGA and advertising and what that actually means based on a couple of movies that's come out. And then number 3, some quick nerd stuff. I've had people actually ask me on YouTube multiple times what I thought of Fantastic Four, what I think of Eyes of Wakanda. So I'll say that really quick at the end. So let's start off with this, because I think it's really important. For those of you who saw me on Friday, the 8th of August, I was sitting in and guest hosting on The Beat with Ari Melber. Thanks to Ari. He's on vacation right now. I'll actually be hosting on MSNBC Monday, the 11th, 12th, and 13th. So I'll be on this week. Anyway, so Friday, I had on this guy named Rob Reynolds, who is a representative of District 27 in Texas. And he is one of the Democrats who have fled the state of Texas right now in order to deny the governor, Abbott, a quorum, right? For those of you who don't understand, the Republicans are trying to do a redistricting of Texas to basically eliminate every single Democratic seat and give Donald Trump an additional 5 seats because Republicans are concerned that they could lose in the midterms in 2026. So that's the basics, right? Usually you don't have redistricting done halfway through a census. We had a census in 2020, shouldn't have another census until 2030. And this kind of redistricting to basically eliminate every single Democrat in the state is highly undemocratic, and that's pretty bad because Texas is pretty gerrymandered to begin with, right? The vast majority, over 90% of the growth, according to Voto Latino, 90% of the population growth in Texas has been non-white people. That does not guarantee that you get any more Democratic districts, but it certainly is very odd that you would get rid of the 5 Democratic districts you have in a state that's probably a lot more competitive than it is anyway. So that's the situation, right? Now, I could talk, and you know, you can go look at my previous clips. We can talk about the Democrats on the run. That's actually not the issue. That's not the issue I want to talk about. It's not even the issue I think is all that important. Not right now, anyway, right? They are fleeing. We don't know how long. By the time this video comes up, I think they only need 4 more Democrats to basically give up and return to the state of Texas. And then Abbott will have his quorum, and then they can push through with this gerrymandering. What I need you all to understand, and what's actually important about this, is number 1, why the Democrats on the run is not the most important issue, and 2, what this has to do with Gavin Newsom, the guy who was the governor of California who wants to be president of the United States. So number 1, please understand, every single Democrat who fled the state, right, they're not breaking the law. They're not breaking the law. It's not illegal to not go to work. And if you are a legislator in Texas, it's only a part-time job anyway. They don't have to be there all the time. They're simply not going to work. And you've got Republicans in the state of Texas right now who are saying they're going to send Dog the Bounty Hunter after these people, and the Mandalorian and Boba Fett and Lobo and every single, I'm going to keep making pop culture references to bounty hunters until you get it. But basically that's what they're saying they're going to do. They're going to send bounty hunters and cops and sheriffs after these guys. They haven't broken the law. There is no justification for sending a sheriff after an absentee senator or state representative to drag them back in order to make them vote. But that shows the lawlessness of our country right now, because the governor shouldn't even be making these kinds of threats. Now, the operative question that I thought, and a lot of other people think, is, well, okay, why don't they just not go to work? Why do they have to leave the state of Texas? Well, this is where the lawlessness comes into play, because a lot of Democrats fear, and a lot of people on the ground, I've been talking to people in Texas, their concern is if they come back to the state, they're going to get arrested anyway. They will literally be arrested at their homes and dragged into the state house so that a quorum could be fulfilled. Is that illegal? Of course it's illegal. You can't arrest me for not going to work. But the belief on the part of Republicans in Texas and the Democrats who work with them is, by the time the court said, hey, it's illegal to drag this person from their house and force them to have a quorum so that you can legislate hundreds of millions of people out of their proper representation, the courts can't move as fast as cops can. So that's why people haven't just gone back, right? But if these people continue back, and like I said, as of now, it is Sunday, the 10th of August, there are only 4 more Democrats that need to break rank in order to go back to the state of Texas, and then Abbott will have his form, and then he'll do it. So that's where we are, right? That's the grand scheme of things. That's the scenario that we're faced with. Now, here's where you get my thumbnail in the end game. Because this has been the question that I've been asking all along about all this. So Republicans want to add 5 more seats by gerrymandering the state of Texas and getting rid of all Democrats, right? And what you've had is it's a Democratic governor of California, Gavin Newsom, has said, oh, 2 can play this game. We got 55-something seats in California. Y'all want to roll? Y'all want to play? I will gerrymander the entire state to eliminate every single Republican. You'll have 55 Democratic seats from the state of California. And then Kathy Hochul in New York said, yo, bet, I'll do the same thing. And then you've got Pritzker in Illinois saying, I'll do the same thing. Now, of course, my thought is, what's the end game here? Right? Like, if everybody keeps saying, I'm going to gerrymander, I'm going to gerrymander, I'm going to gerrymander, at some point, it's not about incrementalism. You got the governor of South Carolina coming forward saying, hey, you know what? We should gerrymander. I'm going to get rid of the 1 Democratic district. Okay, fine. We can play this game. You get 5 here, 4 there. You can play this grab bag of redistricting and regerrymandering. But ultimately, there's got to be some math out there, right? There has to be somebody who can say how far this goes and why any of this matters. And obviously, it matters because it's how you get represented. If you happen to be a Democrat, in the state of Texas, you might actually like your Democratic representative. The majority of the people where you live voted for that representative. And the idea of just getting rid of that person so that they can play games for the Fuhrer doesn't seem to make much sense, right? Air Trump or whatever it is you want to call him. So here's where the Thanos snap starts. I have talked to some people who I know who work very closely with all these elected officials. They're political scientists and they're strategists. And what I have been told at this particular point is that if you play it out, if all the blue states that are solidly, heavily blue, you're talking your New Yorks and your Illinois and your California. So if all the blue states say, that's it, we're going to go, we're going to gerrymander all the Republicans out. You have about 11 states right now that are kind of Democratic led, but they have, basically what the Democrats did the last time they took power is they're like, well, we're going to add commissions, right? We're going to add nonpartisan commissions to prevent somebody from doing exactly what's happening right now. So you can play with their sort of numbers, how quickly they can do this, et cetera, et cetera. But most scenarios and most simulations say that if every single Democratic-led state decided they were going to gerrymander all the Republicans out, and every single Republican state decided they were going to gerrymander all the Democrats out, the Democrats still win. Yes, the Democrats would still win. They would still have more seats. Congress would be more Democratic if every single Democratic state got rid of their Republicans. Now, why is that the case? Well, it's the case because most Republican states are highly gerrymandered anyway. That's what you have happening in Louisiana. That's what you have happening in Texas. Democratic states aren't as gerrymandered. So they have a lot more space, right? And ultimately, that's the end game. And the person who could set this all off with a snap is Gavin Newsom. He's the leader of this. You like him or not, he is the leader of state resistance to the regime and the administration in Washington, D.C. If Gavin Newsom says, bet, we're either calling a referendum in Texas or I'm going to work out something with my state legislature and we're going to get rid of all the Republicans, that is the end game. That is the Thanos snap. Once he does it, every other Democratic state within the next 8 to 10 months is going to do the same thing. And you will have a legislative and a gerrymandering arms race that probably won't end until sometime next spring. It'll end up in the Supreme Court. You'll have lots of people upset about it. It's huge, but it starts with Gavin Newsom because he's got the most power in the biggest state and he can have the biggest impact. He is Thanos in this situation, right? He snaps and everything changes. Now, do I think he's going to do that? As of now, yeah. If Texas goes through with this, Gavin Newsom's going to do it. And the important thing for everybody out here to remember is if you live in any of these states, this is going to affect you. This is going to affect you. It's not going to stop. Every Democratic state is going to do this because all the Republican states are going to do this. And everybody is going to basically live in either an all blue or all red state when it comes to congressional representation. The only thing that's not going to change is the members of the Senate. So this is a huge, huge deal. And the reason I call this endgame is not just because it can start with Gavin Newsom, but because ultimately, once you realize how far Republicans are willing to go, which should have been obvious to anybody for years, they play dirty. They haven't cared about the Constitution. You have someone in the White House right now that does not care about democracy or representation or anything else like that. Once that starts, you can't back off again. If you are willing to gerrymander all of Republicans out of resistance in order to battle how Republicans are behaving, then you need to start doing the same thing with your state courts. You need to start making sure that you change state laws so that, hey, maybe the judges are no longer elected anymore. We don't want any more Republican judges. We just want Democratic judges. Maybe you then need to change some other rules about, you know, how votes are counted. Or in the case of Gavin Newsom, who was the governor of California, he's come out and said, look, y'all keep this up. If the federal government doesn't give us money for disaster relief or something else like that, we will stop giving state tax money to the federal government. These governors have to do that. And even if everybody in Congress, even if Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries and whatever it is are all like, we want to think about, and Chuck Schumer, these states ain't playing the way that the members of Congress are. These states are out there suffering. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that, you know, Wes Moore or Pritzker are the toughest guys out there, but these states know that they have executive power and they can fight back against this in a much stronger way. So this is the end game. Over the next 2 weeks, we're going to see if Texas pulls this off, if the quorum is reached and Governor Abbott, who wants to be president one day and thinks he's going to be president one day, if he goes through with this, then you can expect the same thing to come out of California. And then it's off to the races. And that is not necessarily a good thing for our country, but it's the only way that you can fight back against an encroaching regime and central dictatorship. Anyway, that's the number one thing. I'm going to run through the other two very quickly. So number two, I'm going to say this fast. It's funny. A lot of people have asked me about the Sydney Sweeney ad, and Sydney Sweeney is the actress who's probably kind of MAGA if we've heard about her family. And she did this jeans ad. And then there's another white guy, teen actor who did something Summer I Did Pretty, and he talks about jeans and everything else like that. And people are like, oh my gosh, is this MAGA? Is this sort of MAGA white nationalist, this white blonde woman talking about, is it in her jeans? And it sounds very similar to neo-Nazi kind of rhetoric, you know, great replacement theory rhetoric. I'll tell you this. I don't think it's a coincidence that you have this kind of rhetoric. And I just saw The Naked Gun. And I know this may seem odd, so follow me on this. I saw The Naked Gun. It was absolutely hilarious. It was really funny. Liam Neeson was great. Pamela Anderson was great. They were both very, very, very funny. But there was some like MAGA symbolism in that movie that I was surprised by. You had one of those guys standing on one of those weird things that Tucker Carlson talked about, the kind of things that like heat up men's genitals in order to help them out. There was UFC fighting in it. You know, there's just a couple of things here and there that sounded very MAGA. And they weren't always as jokes. They were sort of being normalized within the context of the story. So if you're asking me, is it possible that Levi jeans, and by the way, remember Levi's were invented by enslaved black people in this country. If you're asking me, would Levi start to slip in those sorts of cultural references? Hell yeah. Why wouldn't they? That is the attitude. That is the administration and the regime we have right now. So I don't know why anybody would be surprised if that turns out to be the case. I can't say that it is, but I don't think anybody is crazy to think so. I think we're going to see more and more of that kind of right-wing ideology slipping into things. Number three, very quickly, people have asked me, hey, Jason, what do you think of the Fantastic Four? I think the Fantastic Four was great. I think it was a great movie. I think it was highly entertaining. I loved the aesthetics of it. I thought Pedro Pascal was great. I thought Vanessa Kirby was great. And I'm not usually a big fan of her in movies. I didn't think the guy, Joseph something, whatever it is, I don't think the guy who they had for Johnny was that great. Eben Moss-Barack as a Thing was fantastic. Fantastic Four was a great movie. I don't think it's a competition, but it was certainly better than Superman. Not that it takes much to be better than Superman, because Superman wasn't very good. But if you're really going to ask me about the most important, exciting, fun thing you should be watching right now, you should be watching Eyes of Wakanda on Disney+. It is absolutely fantastic. 4 half-hour episodes, only 2 hours of your time. All sorts of awesome stuff about Wakanda. It's history. It's funny. It's exciting. It's action-packed. And it has been the #1 most watched program on Disney Plus since it debuted almost 10 days ago. There's no reason to not watch this. Everybody else thinks it's fantastic. Got a 100% fresh rating. So really quick, number one, we are in Endgame. Gavin Newsom probably within the next week or so, depending on what happens in Texas, may snap his fingers and you will see a gerrymandering arms race in order to combat Republicans. It's going to be very interesting to see. Number two, do I think that there's a lot of MAGA stuff that's slipping into our advertising and pop culture? Absolutely. And anybody who thinks that's not the case or doubts it is foolish or stupid or hasn't been paying attention to this country. And number three, watch Eyes of Wakanda. It's great. It's entertaining. It's fantastic. I will be guest hosting on The Beat with Ari Melber Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week. Please make sure that you turn in. And also, please like, subscribe, and share. I'm really enjoying the growth. We have some exciting things we're going to be working on in the next couple of weeks. It's Jason Johnson. See ya.